In the end of One More Light, the story of Linkin Park.
It starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try.
Everybody's heard it. Not everybody knows the story.
I know time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings.
In the year 2000, it seemed everybody had this album.
Clock takes life away. It's so unreal.
It was lumped in with a musical style called nu metal, which is a whole lot of this. So it's understandable that critics flocked to retro rock, not nu metal. But they were wrong in thinking that the saviors of rock music needed to have an eye on the past, to be bands like The Strokes. And the White Stripes. Garage bands in a 60s and 70s vein, a safe sound for the spiffy. They were wrong in thinking that LP was too unprecedented to be more than a blip on the radar. They were wrong in thinking that LP's groundbreaking push of mental health awareness to the mainstream was anything like the aimless violence of their peers. That album, that debut album, not this one, or this one, however great they are, no, this one, remains the best-selling rock album of the 21st century, more than 20 years on. And today's big rock is almost unrecognizable as scuzzy. And everything from hip-hop to jazz to pop to Latin.
Playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view.
Yeah, they were wrong. The indie landfill piled up as quick as the nu metal one, and the genre-bending music of today is indebted to the foresight of a band called Linkin Park. A foresight they would follow throughout their career that many would try and fail to emulate. Okay, before we start, a quick disclaimer. I was born in 2005. Burn It Down is closer to my childhood memories than Paper Cut, and I've grown up knowing LP as the token heavy band for rock radio. Younger me thought this wasn't cool, that the Strokes were cool because Enemy said so. And they are cool, but that's not this story. Also, a lot of people older than me say that LP was their gateway to metal. Guess what? I listened to and loved Slipknot before I dug into LP. Basically, I'm a generation removed from their initial impact. But I dug in. Something I'm hesitant to do because I'd rather leave a mediocre back catalog undiscovered. Realize that in the 20-some-odd years since their first album came out, still never heard anything quite like it. I also realized that their later career showed far more courage than many of their Limp Bizkit-loving audience members could comprehend. Okay, that's enough. Let's take it back to the start.
And remember, kids, to fasten your seatbelts and wear your safety helmets and goggles for the wackiest ride of your life.
Let's go back before the album that changed rock, to the very beginning.
It starts with one. Multiplies till you can taste the sun and burn by the sky you try to take it from. But if it falls, there's no place to run. Crumbling down, it's so unreal.
LP wasn't always LP. First, it was 0. They were pretty much the same 6 from the start. We have Brad.
As you can see, we're living it up like the rock stars we are with some travel scrabble.
Joe.
It makes noises. So I push the button and it makes a noise.
Dave.
You toggle it, just stops the elevator. You know, riding down, everyone's telling ghost stories. Blow!
Mike.
Our instruments and getting things ready for that. I just painted this week, and Brad's all jealous.
Rob.
This is my drum set.
And Mark? Yep, before Chester there was Mark, and he brought a decidedly more grungy feel to LP. This carried over to some demos from when Chester joined the band, and they called themselves Hybrid Theory. They had to change their name to avoid confusion following their signing with Warner Brothers. They settled on Linkin Park. Wait, Linkin Park, so they could get the domain name.
This rumor that's been going around the industry that you're a manufactured boy band.
You guys have a lot of people watching, and we get to say to all these people that we wouldn't have gotten a publishing deal first if we didn't write our own songs.
The relationship with their label wasn't always so great, as Shinoda explained in Fort Minor's song Get Me Gone.
He was like, yeah, you know, I don't know about the rapping, like, I don't know if it's, like, maybe you should just be a rock band, you know what I mean? Like, trying to change us. Like, they signed us as, like, act like what we sound like. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I don't know, maybe you should just play keyboard.
Put the rhythm on the pavement and drip from the blacktop into the basement. Traces of the rain pervade this to erase your hate.
But they stuck with it, and they made an album that is somehow just as played and even more appreciated today as it was when it was released, October of 2000. Hybrid Theory. It was a 12-track juggernaut without an extraneous part. Every cog put to work serving the exhilarating, powerful, and emotional core.
Got me caught in the act, you bring the thought back. Telling me that I see it right through you. Now you got me caught in the act, you bring the thought back. Telling me that I see it right through you.
It blurred hip-hop, rock, and electronica with effortless ability in ways that previous genre collaborations that had a certain novelty appeal did not.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said in my mind.
Told me how to walk, she told me to walk this way. Told me.
And everybody you knew seemed to love it, due in no small part to a complete lack of expletives throughout the whole album that let it slip into conservative families as the band had intentioned.
When we were recording and when we were mixing, I remembered like being Hybrid Theory to this album and being like, it needs to like have as much energy as this album does.
But there was a problem, an ugly trope that the media had determined must apply to LP because they made heavy music at the turn of the century. That problem was ignorance.
When we came out with Hybrid Theory, the other stuff that was even in remotely close to it was like what we were calling behind the closed doors, we were calling it frat rock. We were saying it was really like aggressive male, like testosterone filled, I'm in your face, I'm a badass, like alpha male shit, right? And our stuff was not that. Like we came out with, there's a flavor of hip hop in there, but there was a flavor of like Depeche Mode in there. There's a flavor of The Cure. There was stuff that was a little more introverted and exposed insecurities and exposed shit that was going on inside that those other bands would not touch.
Don't believe him?
Something inside me that pulls beneath the surface.
Don't take it to the streets, take it like a man, motherfucker. Yo, bitch chose me, motherfucker.
My walls are closing in.
Not a sense of confidence, I'm convinced that there's just too much pressure to take. I love you like self-respect.
Against my will, I stand beside my own reflection. It's haunting.
Along with Kitty,
Seems I take away my problems, but only
Incubus, and a handful of others, LP is in reality only one of a handful of bands from the time that made an album for everyone. Finally, critics, everybody from Apple Music to NME, are starting to notice. Reanimation. Most bands would be happy with taking a few years off after Hybrid Theory, but LP wanted to go further. What if they remixed, no, reanimated, the Hybrid Theory songs by digging further into the underground hip-hop scene that the band had always drawn from?
No matter how hard you try, keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme when I was obsessed with time. All I know, time was just slipping away, and I watched it count down till the end of the day.
That's exactly what they did, and the project came with upped industrial energy and punk spirit, plus plenty of cool song titles that captured the sound perfectly. Featuring artists like Charlie Tuna, The Alchemist, Black Thought, Dilated Peoples, and many more, Reanimation, released July of 2002, quickly became the fourth best-selling remix album of all time, and quelled critical questions about the band's hip-hop integrity. Rumors of a lack of emotional honesty still plague the band, however, with many considering their lyrical themes nothing more than edgy. This was especially fervent as the third wave of emo music began to take hold. That criticism would follow the band for a long time. Meteora. LP's second album, released in March 2003, was Hybrid Theory 2.0, the near perfection of the metal sound they had been exploring throughout their career. With the weight of their debut on their shoulders, LP set out to go bigger and better without wasting a second.
Don can just come in and be like, I know you guys, you know that I mean the best when I say that this is crap.
Today, kids, we rewrote a song for the 97th time.
And every song was absolutely massive, in the best way possible. They even dove further into the emo genre that was just beginning to turn mainstream, thanks to bands like Jimmy Eat World, Taking Back Sunday, and My Chemical Romance. As the nu metal genre was dying off from popularity, it was also becoming clearer why LP was still only gaining momentum. It was because of the creative control they took over their art. Shinoda and Hanba studied art and visuals in college, which allowed them to lead their own art design, and direct their own music videos.
You need to perform better. I've seen you do better. I haven't even done anything yet. See the pressure they put me under?
Leading to one of the coolest 3 minutes of rotoscoping in music history. It was also ironic that the aggressive posturing of many nu metal frontmen sounded entirely weak compared to Bennington's vocals. I won't be ignored! And isn't that what these genres of music are all about? Alright, in all honesty, 2003 was truly the year when LP mastered their early sound and their stage presence.
When people fall down here, you pick the motherfuckers up.
Can you guys help us out by saying that one time? Hold up. If they fall down, what do you do? If they fall down,
what do you do? That's right, everybody.
Meteora also continued their pattern of epic bridges.
I will never be anything till I break away from me.
Instrumentals. The chatter that Meteor sounded too much like Hybrid Theory. Hey, the Strokes were in the same boat too. The turn their sound took next was somehow even more drastic than anyone thought. Collision Course.
Look historical right now.
I have no soul. I'm an angry white guy.
It's so fun. This whole project is like fun.
Does that sound good?
If it doesn't sound good, we'll bury it.
God, Jay-Z would probably shoot me right now if he's honest.
That shit is fast as shit. I might have to bring out the young Jay-Z.
These kids are gonna be freaking out.
It's gonna be great.
The fact that MTV prodded Jay-Z out of retirement to make a mashup project with anyone of his choosing, and he chose LP, says it all. The behind-the-scenes footage is also a must-watch. From the artistry, to them really all being in the same room as each other.
What's up, man? What's happening?
Nice to meet you.
What's up?
How are you?
What's going on?
Nice to meet you.
It also gave us one of the best reaction memes ever. And one of the craziest Grammy performances ever.
All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be.
Yeah, that was pretty insane. A crossover the magnitude of which only a year like 2004 could dream up. The unexpectedness of what came next in LP's journey, charting a line through Hybrid Theory and Meteora to the pending third album, was even crazier. Minutes to Midnight. The problem with this album, for some, was that a qualifier for the occupation of being LP wasn't just being LP, it was being nu metal. And Minutes to Midnight wasn't a nu metal album.
I knew that I wasn't gonna be happy kind of just doing a continuation of what we'd already done before.
We didn't want to make another album that sounded, like what people would expect.
Or really even a metal album at all, in a lot of places. It was an alternative rock album with an ear for sparkling, stadium-ready songwriting, coupled with moments of immense restraint.
Fear is not afraid of you, but guilt's a language you can understand.
With the edge lying a little deeper in the mix, to surface in moments of shocking power, rather than serve as a constant boiling foundation. It was a maturation of musicality, technicality, and proficiency.
Mama help me, I've been cursed. Death is rolling in every verse. Candy paint on his brand new hearse. Can't contain him, he knows he works.
The album, released May 2007, was also political, with the introspective eye of their earlier works turned outward further than it had ever gone before.
Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Fuck that, I want to see some fist pumping. Risk something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I had before. Like it's stupid standing for what I'm standing for.
Look! Santa! Ooh, a fairy!
The underrated standout of the album is one of LP's greatest achievements, taking one's expectations for the machine dramatic, and changing the whole narrative with just 2 lines. 2 lines that put it all into perspective. They even had their own Project Revolution mini festival, where they toured with the likes of TBS and MCR.
Linkin Park. My Chemical Romance. Taking Back Sunday.
In many ways, Minutes to Midnight was the most pivotal album in LP's discography. The one that proved they wouldn't pander to people that only liked their made-up idea of what LP was, not really the true thing. Minutes to Midnight proved that LP could grow beyond the confines of a genre they never claimed anyways. The next one, they took it even further. 1,000 Suns.
God bless us, everyone. We were broken people living under loaded gun, and it can't be outfought, it can't be outdone.
If the new meddlers were scratching their heads over Minutes to Midnight, 1,000 Suns was LP going to outer space. 1,000 Suns was the most divisive record LP had released to date when it came out in September 2010. For lack of a more accurate word for this experience, 1,000 Suns was straight up wacky and awesome. It had everything from speech samples
The time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part.
I come to this magnificent house of worship tonight because my conscience leaves me no other choice.
the Middle Eastern chants,
And all the people say,
the 18-second snippets between songs that all coalesced into little fragments of sound you'd find yourself humming and wondering where it came from. It was undoubtedly a concept album.
Stuff in here that seems to point at a fear of kind of like destroying ourselves.
and the responsibilities of life that LP were championing during this matured era of their career carried over into their work outside of the album.
Hammering these nails in, and some of them seem to be going in way too easy. I have a feeling they're not really doing anything productive.
One of the album's most popular tracks is also Shinoda's favorite LP song ever, and for a good reason. It was a harkening back to the sharp attack and focus of their early work, combining with new sonic design that made every second count.
So like he was kind of doing like this and kind of holding it as it was turning and then kind of moving to something else. So for you, let it kind of turn and then like do something, you know, kind of think Tai Chi.
This was the album that took LP from metal to the electronica they had always dabbled in, and proved that the latter was even more abrasive. You also have to thank the album's closer for one of the most heartwarming videos on the internet.
Remember your love, and you always will be.
That didn't make things easy on the band. A lot of former fans didn't realize that heavy wasn't automatically cool or daring, that there were many ways to be heavy, and that this album was even more cool, daring, and heavy in many ways than any of LP's previous albums. Much like how Hybrid Theory is finally appreciated by critics decades after its release, 1,000 Suns is finally being appreciated by fans years after it landed. Living Things. Yeah, the reception to 1,000 Suns shook them a bit. Imagine losing a once-in-a-lifetime audience due to closed minds.
Maybe one thing to think about is like, let's write some like just dope rock songs, you know?
Because of this, Living Things, released June 2012, was more akin to Hybrid Theory and Meteora, with the electronica boosted up and the metal edges rounded out a little. The results were less of the growing wonder of 1,000 Suns and more immediate headbanging. You can probably hum this in your head. But that's not to say it was all expected.
It goes from like insane hip hop to like punk rock, death metal to like folk music. It's insane.
For the first time, LP dove into a haunting folk sound that was reportedly inspired by Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash. The differing interpretations of the lyrics reveal just how essential a composite of 6 musicians with totally different styles and perspectives was to the band. There was also the crystalline sound expanding into a dystopian sparse piano-driven duet.
And if you need a friend, there's a seat here alongside me.
And a distorted, glitchy rap song dissolving into this. Proving that LP was not satisfied with the status quo they were making and breaking every song. It was around this time when LP's humanitarian efforts were also recognized in full. They raised over $6 million at the time.
Tonight is a toned down performance.
just for you guys because it's dinner, and we thought that, you know, hard rock and heavy metal is not going to be so cool.
LP also made a major contribution to the second or so wave of a classically extreme genre, post-hardcore. In the year 2012, a new style of post-hardcore, electronic post-hardcore, had taken over from the classic scram style. And barring bands like La Dispute, a lot of post-hardcore sounded like this. Not exactly great stuff. LP saved the day with a post-hardcore sound that was electronic, angry, rocking, and awesome.
Now let me show you exactly how the breaking point sounds. I wanna see you choke and laugh, swallow up the crack.
Giving a future to the new style that was floundering in comparison to its past. This represents LP's trajectory at that point. They refused to answer any expectations and averted them entirely. Just like each time before, what came next was completely out of left field. But first, they had to throw a little party. Recharged. LP had to get in on the EDM that they themselves helped to boost to the international stage.
And then over the O's, like you could rap something.
And what better way to do it than pull a reanimation on living things? The results were expectedly rave-worthy. Bass boosted. And dubstepping. Creating an electrified project, proving just how many things LP could pull off, and how many activities and lifestyles they could soundtrack. They didn't do it all by themselves, of course. Just like Reanimation, Recharged, released October 2013, enlisted the help of remix experts like Steve Aoki, Datsick, and Killsonic, and hip-hoppers like Pusha T and Shinoda's old Fort Minor friend Ryu. It didn't quite wield the genre-mashing power of Reanimation, but it's still the 10th best-selling remix album of all time. And it made what LP did next seem even crazier. The Hunting Party.
There's nothing more to take, but you force yourself to choose. In the wastelands of today, when tomorrow disappears.
In the year 2014, month June to be exact, no one expected LP to make a pure old-school metal album, one that ditched synths for guitars. So of course, that's exactly what they did.
I'll say one last thing. The lights are really bright, so I can't quite see you, but can I get a show of hands of people that don't really know Linkin Park? You don't have any Linkin Park music? Don't be shy. I know that there's a bunch of you. Okay, so after we play tonight, just for you guys, we have an album coming out in the summer this year that our friend who handed us this is really excited about. She's awesome. All of you guys who raise your hands, who are about to hear what we're going to do right now, do not buy our album based on this performance, because our album that comes out this year is really loud and it's going to give you a heart attack.
At a time when the electronic side of rock was amping up to the point where LP's hybrid theory was now becoming a mainstream thing, LP decided to push back against those playing it safe. Totally heavy. The result was a mega awesome blast from the past. Like 80s and 90s past. It was thrash and metal perfection. It had 9 guitar solos, pretty much 9 more than any other album of theirs. It was self-produced. It was also their first studio album to feature features. And they weren't lightweights. The hunting party had contributions from Helmet's Paige Hamilton,
We'd be so happy to have you.
It'd be a blast.
System of a Down's Darren Malakian, Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello,
So please just say, that was not so good. Okay, great. We don't like that one. Great.
and hip-hop legend Rakim.
I started writing this shit and got about halfway through and realized there's only 4 words that rhyme with guilty.
Meaning you're the game, to me you're all the same, you're guilty.
Proving that LP was a band appreciated by their influences and enjoyed by their peers. It also cannot be ignored that the album had a hardcore punk song, Seriously. Lots of people expected LP's albums to have a certain perfection and meticulousness in production, which made some fans push back against the rougher, almost underground sound. It was an exciting development for many.
When I heard the opening riffs of Guilty All the Same, I hadn't really felt that kind of excitement for a long time.
It was in many ways a prequel to Hybrid Theory, an amalgamation of the sounds the band loved in the 90s. Beyond the many record companies, politicians, and leaders it criticized, the sound itself was also strong criticism. Of modern music watering down LP's template to the point where it wasn't recognizable as anything, least of all the rock banner it paraded under. The Hunting Party remains one of LP's most underrated albums. Their next was much, much more infamous. One More Light.
If I just let go, I'd be set free. Holding on.
And here we are. We have made it to the most controversial album LP ever made, and one of the most complicated stories in the history of the band, one that many still grapple with today. In short, One More Light was 100% a pop album.
If we have a record that's stacked with songs that are vibey, that are inspired, like you said, and that when it's over, it's in your head, that to me gives us a better shot
It wasn't pop like their other work.
at having a chance to reach people
It was pop in that the production had a 100%
who aren't necessarily searching
2017
for us.
mainstream sound.
I want to make a record that makes our fans happy, of course. Most importantly, makes us happy.
It was, for a band like LP, the ultimate risk.
Consequences, I guess that I had to find out for myself.
Criticism that was shallow came from the new metalers that had greeted every album LP had released since Meteora with incessant chants of sellouts. The criticism that was accurate came from the sincere fans that noticed there wasn't the unique stylistic ideas in the music that made LP sound like LP, which didn't make it terrible. It was just simple and catchy. What did the band think about the critics?
The albums aren't in a line. Like, they're not evolving towards something. They're just individual satellites.
Yeah, it was hard because lots of people would soon understand the weight of their words. Because everything was so sparse and expected musically, you really had nothing to do but listen to the words.
I wanna fall wide awake now. Tell me it's alright. Tell me I'm forgiven tonight. And only I can save me now.
And that's how you knew this was an LP record. which made critics calling songs like Heavy, a Chainsmokers ripoff, just plain wrong, because what the band was saying in the song was so much more important. It's the same deal with the whole album.
Blood on the floor, sirens repeat. I've been searching for the courage to face my enemies.
Okay. Take your hot water. I warm it with the powers of my mind.
But there is one song on the album that justifies its whole existence. That makes other universes where LP made some artistic, hardcore, alternative metal album totally insignificant. The song was One More Light, and I think it's the best song the band ever made. Production, lyrics, songwriting, concept, everything. In all the fervor, fans forgot that the band had always been testing where they could take their sound. And it's no doubt that lyrically, One More Light was their most mature album. In the live sets, their merging of early energy and recent introspection felt natural, diverse, and exciting. They kept pushing boundaries, blending genres, and fusing their music right up to the end. In 1991, NME correspondent Steve Lamacq asked Manic Street Preachers guitarist and lyricist Richie Edwards about the band's integrity, and his response is one of the most infamous moments in rock history. Only one number and 4 letters long. In a way, it paralleled the constant criticism that was given to LP's emotional honesty. The idea that the music would be better if it weren't so melodramatic, so unnecessary, and so fake. Richie Edwards disappeared February 1st, 1995. July 20th, 2017, Linkin Park, as we knew it, was over.
Bandmate Mike Shinoda spoke on behalf of Linkin Park with a tweet saying, "Shocked and heartbroken." Callers shared their sorrow with on-air personality Stryker, who says Bennington grew up in Arizona, but Linkin Park formed in Southern California.
They were our friends musically. We watched them grow in every single way. I'm just totally crushed.
Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do.
That was because, from the beginning, it had always been two. Both had gone through personal hardships.
And he said something to the effect of like, you people are screwing it up for all the good kids around here, is what he said to me.
Like kind of envy sociopaths because they don't have to worry about ever feeling shit. I kind of want that. And she's like, you mean you don't want to be a human being? I was like, yep.
And came from wildly different musical backgrounds and decided to do this together. We don't know what the future holds for the band, but from the moment their sound first hit the airwaves, LP was making everybody fans of everything. They were getting hip-hop fans into rock and rock fans into hip-hop and electronic music fans into everything. They took metalheads into the experimental realm from Meteora to 1,000 Suns and turned pop rockers into metalheads from Living Things to The Hunting Party. It can be hard, retrospectively, to look back and realize just how groundbreaking the genre mashing was. because they made it a fact of who they were and what they stood for. Because of that, Linkin Park is, not was, is one of the biggest examples of a band from the 21st century being popular for being different.
I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard and got so far.
I hope their career inspires musicians to create a new sound. That was in the end of One More Light.
Something else or whatever.
Yeah, the last thing that we want to do in life is become subject to the roles we place ourselves in. You know, we're all so much. Everyone in the world is bigger than the role that they think they need to play.
And do you think that sometimes people have their worst enemies in themselves, like giving themselves borderlines?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest weaknesses of being a person, just in general as a human being, is the feeling that we're all a little bit insignificant in the large picture of things, and which is completely untrue. Every person can be as powerful as they want to be.